back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys! So I am here today to do a book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is one of the finalists for the SPFBO. I've only got the last two to review, so I'm going to do that over the next few days. And then we're going to just sit and watch the scoreboard as the rest of the judges give their scores on all of the finalist books and we see what wins. So I'll link the scoreboard below if you want to follow along. And in the meantime, this is going to be my review of A Sea of Broken Glass, which unfortunately I didn't love. This book is one that I was hoping to enjoy a little bit more than I did, but it just didn't quite work on the whole for me. The book itself follows a main character who is called Riss. She is a character who is somehow got some kind of great destiny. We know that straight away because we know that she is some sort of relation to the Lady of Darkness, and there's clearly something that is a big destiny that she has to fulfill. The book starts with her kind of on a witch trial. The town that she's grown up in is putting her on trial because although she has helped them many times and she's healed people and she's been there and a good neighbour for a lot of people, the mentality of the town is very backwards and she has been put on trial for witchcraft. I love books about witches and witchcraft in general. I think it's really fun if it's done well, but for me personally, the direction that this book took was very much not about that. As the book went on, it became a lot more about destiny and a lot more about foreshadowing and prophecy, and I find prophecy is a very hard thing to get right. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it. That's just personal preference, but it's something that I find needs to be done very carefully because otherwise you give away the whole story before you get anywhere, if that makes sense. And in this book, I don't think it was done as successfully as I wanted it to be. There was also very definitely a big overbearing kind of good versus evil storyline, which I personally found quite irritating to see. I didn't really enjoy the overbearing presence of this good versus evil. There wasn't a lot of kind of morally grey characters. It was very much you're good or you're bad. Riz, as I say, is our main character, and she actually has her storyline in first person, which is immediate. It's very easy to connect with her storyline, but I didn't love her as a character. Now, the odd thing that the author chooses to do is that the other characters in this storyline who are sort of secondary don't have first person, they actually have second person, and the chapters switch between first person and second person depending on which of the characters you're following. Now, personally, I found this as a very odd format and I didn't find it very easy to connect with any of the secondary characters. Riss was the character who you're supposed to be able to connect with the most, but I didn't love her personality and I found a lot of her decisions and a lot of her motivations to be a bit questionable, so I wasn't a big fan of that, and I just didn't feel like I connected with any of the secondary characters either, unfortunately. Riz, I think, was just that little bit too much of a girl with a destiny character. She really did not feel genuine to me, and that's something that I personally just found very difficult to connect with and enjoy. In this world we have magic, which is connected to light and to darkness. We know that kind of everything in this world is loosely connected to the magic of this world in some way, and we know that there's been an ongoing kind of battle between the light and the dark for a long time now, and we're kind of reaching the point where something big has to happen to decide once and for all which magic is going to really take over and change the face of this world. Somehow Riz is kind of integral to finding out the magic and finding the way to bring the light back to the world. She is our main character for that reason, and I just didn't like her a lot, and I didn't like her storyline a lot, and I really struggled with those things throughout reading this book. It felt like quite a chore to me to be reading this one, unfortunately. It just wasn't very appealing to me to sit down and pick this one up over something else, say, because I just didn't find I connected so well with anything that was going on. I would say that the first half of this book is definitely slower, minus the introductory sort of trial scene, and then as the book goes on, I think the second half becomes a lot more faster paced. I would definitely have preferred to have a lot more character development, world development, generally kind of really getting to know the characters a bit more and their motivations and their instincts and who they really are, because I just felt like they were very face value a lot of the time, and a lot of their motivation was just because it's good. You know, there was nothing to back up that claim or that idea in them. I also think that maybe my expectations were set very differently. When I read that it was kind of this witch hunt trial at the start, I think I set myself up for a very different kind of read than what I got, and maybe that was part of my expectations not quite being met by reality. But unfortunately, even though I did power through the whole book and I read the whole thing, I never quite changed my mind on that first initial impression. I just felt a little bit disappointed by the way the characters were presented and the way the story went. I didn't feel like it was fresh or original, and it wasn't bad, it just wasn't for me, and it didn't work for me in a lot of ways. So with that being said, I ended up giving it a 2.25, which is a 4.5 out of 10 overall. I'd love to have your thoughts if you guys have read it. Maybe you enjoyed it more than me, maybe your expectations were very different and therefore you felt like they were met by the characters and the plotline, and unfortunately this one just wasn't my favourite. But I've got one more to review, and I hope you guys will join me in that review and then watch the scoreboard with me and what score everything ends up with in the end. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.